So thank you all for coming, taking the time to be here, to hear about this project, and kind of where it's at, the next steps, where it came from. I want to introduce first city staff. I'm Gerardo Rodriguez, Assistant Engineer with the Public Works with the Public Works Department. And then if city staff can rise. I know we have quite a few city staff from the administration, from the police department, Public Works Department. We also want to thank Councilmember De La Rosa, Councilmember Barrera for being here. We also have Commissioner from our Traffic Commission here. So we want to thank you all for being here. And then also we do have welcoming, and we do have Councilmember Salazar, who's a representative for the district where the project is located on. And with that, before we get into the presentation, we also have our consultant here who will be leading the presentation and has prepared all the flyers, the documentation, and information provided. Before we get to the presentation, I'll hand it off to Councilmember Salazar for a few words.
Good evening. I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight. Our staff today, they've got a presentation for all of you. As mentioned, we'll talk a little bit about the antecedents of the project in terms of where the funding came from, a little bit of the history, as well as where we're at right now in terms of getting public input. I'm pretty sure at the end we'll take comments and questions from the community, so all of you will have an opportunity to voice your support or opposition regarding the roundabouts. I know that some people have strong feelings about them, including myself. I will share those with you privately later. But again, I do want to thank my fellow council members for being here. Councilwoman Gloria De La Rosa, Councilmember Tony Barrera. Also, some of my commissioners are also here tonight, including earlier Sharon Field, Paul Hernandez, and also Peter. Yeah, Peter, you're on our Measure G committee. And Victor Cervantes, are you on one of our city?
You're like the mayor.
So we will be appointing him later on in the year. And then also some of the elected officials here. I'd like to thank Lopez for being here, and Ramon Gomez, who's on the fire district. So thank you guys for being here.
MST.
And MST.
Yes.
Because we've not met, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Natalie Flores, and I am the Associate Planner with MST.
Good evening, Jared Augusta, Monterey Salinas Transit Risk, Safety, and Security Manager.
And we'll be hearing from MST as well. I'm just going to go ahead and hand it over to staff from here, and thank you for showing up.
Thank you, Councilmember. And with that, we'll hand it over to the consultant, Kimmy Horn Associates, and they'll be guiding us in the presentation.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm Molly Tremblay with Kimley Horn, design engineer with the project, and with me is Sean. All right. So let's get started. This is the Harden Parkway Path and Safe Routes to School project. So I'll start with an overview of the project. It does include all of Harden Parkway, so from Main Street. Molly. All of Harden Parkway, so from Main Street all the way to El Dorado Drive. And then it also includes McKinnon from Harden Parkway down to Salinas High School and Westminster. North Salinas, right? So the project overview, this project really started during the development of the Salinas Safe Routes to School plan in 2022. During that time, Monterey County was also developing their active transportation plans. So I'll touch on those. We've got some really direct improvements that came from those plans. From there, we worked with the city to submit an active transportation grant application. Actually, this needs to get updated. We won more than 8 million, and it's closer to 16 million to fund the design and construction for this project. Subsequently, we completed an intersection control evaluation. So I'll go through the details of that, but essentially it's a benefit cost analysis looking at different intersection control types to see what would give us the greatest return on investment. We are currently working through the environmental clearance process and coincidentally working through the public outreach and preliminary design. So we did have an outreach meeting in October, and then this is the follow-up to that. And immediately after, not immediately, but later this year, we will be doing the final design for this project. So project goals. As I mentioned, this is funded through the Active Transportation Program. As part of that, there are improvements that are geared towards cyclists and pedestrians, but we also want to consider drivers as well. So this is a complete street project, so that really means that we're addressing the needs of all users. Obviously, with the proximity to the school, some of the improvements are right outside. We really want to pay attention to the needs of students as well. And during this process, we want to incorporate community input into the design. So I'll go through each of the different segments. This is the segment here out in front of the school on McKinnon. As part of the Safe Routes to School plan, there were some pilot installations. So for this segment, that included the installation of raised planters to define the bike lanes and add a little bit more protection for students going to and from school. This is the existing cross-section, so we've got bike lanes on the sides there with the striped buffer. And this project will simply make those permanent and protected, so there's actually a raised element to keep cars away from cyclists. The next area is on Westminster Drive here, so that's between the school and El Dorado Community Park. Again, as part of the Safe Routes to School plan, there was an installation of painted and striped curb extensions and then high visibility crosswalks. These do a few things. They create shorter crossing distances, and then with the curb extensions, it also helps to slow cars down. This project will make those permanent as well. And then finally, we come to Harden Parkway. So this is the largest portion of the project. As part of the grant application, we did include a single-lane roundabout at Harden and McKinnon. And then we also included lane reductions along Harden. So this is the existing roadway section now. You can see there's 2 lanes in each direction, a wide median in the center, and then 4-foot bike lanes on the edge. So with this project, what we're proposing to do is reallocate some of the existing roadway space to bring in protected bike path and pedestrian paths. We'll be maintaining as much as we can of the existing median. We really want to be aware of those existing trees there and keep the look and feel of the corridor the same. And then we'll also be incorporating stormwater treatment elements and then some shoulder space so that there's room for emergency vehicles to pass safely. So the way we set up this workshop is directly informed by previous outreach that we did. So I have 2 sample questions here. This first one is, what is your biggest transportation challenge along Harden Parkway? And the biggest responses we got were traffic safety and congestion. And then the next question is, if you have concerns about roundabouts, which one best describes your reasoning? And the largest responses we got for this one is, I think roundabouts are not safe for pedestrians and or cyclists, or I think roundabouts are confusing to navigate. And the last one would be, I think roundabouts would negatively impact my commute timing. So we have the stations set up throughout the room, and this is also how my presentation will go. And these are all the things that we heard from the public feedback. So we'll go through our traffic evaluation. We'll go through some videos on how to navigate the roundabout. We'll discuss safety, and then at the end, we'll go through our overall plans. So starting with the traffic evaluation, as I mentioned, we did the intersection control evaluation. So there were 3 scenarios that we looked at. The first one on the far side there is the existing condition. So we looked at if you keep 2 lanes in each direction as a stop control and then also as a traffic signal. We looked at it by taking away lanes also as a stop control and a traffic signal, and then finally we looked at it as a single lane roundabout. During this intersection control evaluation, we're looking at the costs of safety and delay, the monetized benefits of safety and delay as compared to the cost of operations and maintenance. So it's really just, are we getting enough safety and delay reductions to outweigh the cost for installation and future maintenance for the project? Across the board, we saw that the roundabout was the preferred alternative, except for the initial capital cost, which is the always stop control, which doesn't cost anything because it's remaining the same. But we wanted to go a step further. So this is actually a drone video of the existing intersection. And these are some of the things that we observed. We saw about 1,300 vehicles go through. This was just in a half-hour time period. Right-of-way confusion, you'll see that as people are making a left, the other approaching vehicles are stopping, or you'll see multiple vehicles entering the intersection all at one time. That's just the size of the intersection and the sheer number of lanes that are involved. You'll also see pedestrians crossing here, and because it's such a long crossing distance, it ends up causing all the cars to stop on the opposite sides. So of these 1,300 vehicles that we saw, 34% did not stop. So a third of cars did not stop. It was either a rolling stop or just blowing through the stop sign. We also saw a maximum delay of over a minute. So that was someone trying to make a left here from this north leg because of all the other cars crossing or because of the pedestrians. They ended up waiting there a very long time. And then this is probably the most alarming. The maximum speed at the intersection was 56 miles an hour. And that's just within the limits of this drone video. So you can see even with the stop control, people can speed.
You're not kidding. It's like a race rate.
Yeah, we saw a lot of that. This is just another video, so you can see the right-of-way confusion that I'm talking about. This car is pulling up here. These 2 cars then approach the intersection at the same time. They're both going at the same time, and then the vehicle traveling south ends up having to slow down to allow the other vehicle to pass. So we took our actual in-person drone data, we also took our count data, and we created this really comprehensive computer simulation that models both the existing intersection as well as the roundabout alternative. So I'll go through some of the results of these. With this configuration, we saw an average delay of about 36 seconds, an average queue of about 250 feet, and then again, we're having those same instances of pedestrians having to cross over 90 feet, and then also the issues of right-of-way confusion. These are at 5 times speed, by the way, So this is with the roundabout alternative. Again, this is with the lane reductions with a single lane, same exact period, same amount of cars. And we're seeing an average delay of 10 seconds. So that's a quarter of what we would see with the stop control. The average queue is about 30 feet. When we do see a queue building up, you'll see that it dissipates really quickly. And that's just the efficiency of the cars moving through. And if you'd like to see these in more detail, we'll have all of the VISM videos on that screen after the presentation. So some of the results. Easier and safer to make left turns, especially from the side streets. So for this one, we'll take a look at Ercia. This is going to be to the east of the Harden McKinnon intersection. Right now, if you are exiting, you have to cross 2 lanes of traffic. It's also really difficult to see cars approaching from the west side, or excuse me, from the east side. So we'll look at an example here. Again, this is our computer simulation. The car comes up. They have to look for traffic approaching from the west. They have to look at this left turn pocket, and then they also have to look at cars approaching from the east. Again, this one making the left. We didn't intentionally pull this, but you can see if the vehicle is making a lane change there, it's also really safe for that left turning vehicle to then pull in. So you end up with a lot of unsafe movements and conflicts. This is, again, the same scenario with the roundabout. We'll see our vehicle approaching, and you only have to look for approaching vehicles in one direction. Everybody's going the same direction, just look left. So with this layout, what we would do instead is have everyone make a right turn, and then they're able to safely get through the intersection. We're also seeing lower, more consistent speeds. So, as we mentioned, it's a bit of a raceway right now. It's really wide. We're seeing vehicles going 45, 56 miles an hour. And what happens is people are traveling really fast along most of the corridor, and then they get to Harden McKinnon and hopefully stop. We're seeing at least a third of them don't. And then they get through the intersection and then they speed up again. And so your overall travel time may remain similar, but you're going much faster and driving more unsafely. With the roundabouts, everything's a lot more controlled. So you're able to proceed through the corridor at a consistent speed. So with all this analysis, what we found was we actually saw a 13-second reduction in delay in the morning, heading eastbound, an 11-second reduction in the afternoon. And then we saw slight increases for westbound traffic, so 5 and 10 seconds. So overall, we're seeing there would be a net reduction in delay for the corridor. So now I'll walk through how to navigate. These slides are using the roundabouts in front of Barden Elementary. So first, the vehicle will approach, look towards the yield line, look towards the crosswalks, and prepare to yield as they approach. Then if there is someone waiting at the crosswalk, the car would yield and let them cross. There we go. We also see drivers as they're exiting the roundabout, they will see the pedestrians as well, and there's enough distance between the crosswalk and the circulating lane for a car to safely stop and allow the pedestrians to proceed. Now we'll focus on this gray truck. There's no one in the crosswalk, they can proceed through. Once they get to the yield line, they will look to their left and see if there's any approaching vehicles. Vehicles in the circulating lanes do have the right-of-way. And then they can enter when it is safe. So again, we see the vehicle approaching, they're going to yield to any vehicles in the circulating lanes. And then lastly, we'll focus on this truck. So you'll continue through the roundabout in a counterclockwise direction. And then you look for your street, use your signal, and exit the roundabout. Now on to safety. So I know this is a big topic. We'll go through each of these bullet points. Why are pedestrians and cyclists safer at roundabouts? So this first one, lower traffic speeds and less severe collisions. So I touched on that, talking about the travel times through the corridor. When we design our roundabouts on the approaches, we design to 23 miles an hour or less. That's sort of like a speed bump where you've got that vertical deflection that's causing you to slow down. With the roundabout, we're doing that horizontally, and that's forcing vehicles to slow down. We also look at fast paths, so we make sure there's not a straight line for a car just to drive straight through. And what does that mean for us? So this chart is showing the chance of a fatality based on a vehicle's speed. So at 23 or 20 miles an hour, that fatality is 10% chance. The existing corridor today, we're seeing vehicles, like I said, at 56 miles an hour. That's over 80% chance of a fatality if a pedestrian was struck. So this is also from our drone footage. All of these lines are showing the actual vehicle paths that we captured. And then the circles that we mapped on top are showing all of the conflict points. So these are areas where vehicle paths are crossing over each other, or where a vehicle path is crossing over the crosswalk. So with the existing layout, we're seeing that there's 27 vehicle pedestrian conflict points. And then there's 32 vehicle conflict points. I also want to point out on the side there, it shows you what the colors mean. So red is 60 miles an hour. Like I mentioned before, some of the vehicles, as they're getting towards this exit crosswalk, are up at that 60 mile an hour range. Oh, I must have taken it out, but with a roundabout, rather than those 27 and 32 number of conflict points, both of those are dropped down to 8. So the places where you're going to have conflicts between pedestrians and cars and between vehicles and other vehicles go down to 8. It's a huge reduction. The next safety benefit is the shorter crossing distances. So on the left there is the existing intersection, so it's an 87-foot crossing distance. Then on the right is a stop or signal control. If we were to take away some of the travel lanes, it's still about 44 feet. And then with the roundabout, because we're able to provide those pedestrian refuge islands, so that center spot for you to land, pedestrians only have to cross one lane at a time, so 11 feet. The risk of exposure to a vehicle goes down by at least a quarter. And then the last safety point is the clear decision points. So I'll walk through this. So as you're approaching the roundabout, you can look and see the intersection as you're approaching. You have a clear view. We also orient the vehicles so that they're aimed a little bit left of center. That gives them a good view of the approaching vehicles. On a typical roundabout where you may have bikes on the sides, we would also position the entry for bikes to take the lane at this spot so the vehicle knows how to stop. For this corridor, we're actually putting the bikes in the center, so we're getting rid of that conflict point. Then the vehicle will approach the intersection. At this point, they can look ahead and see if there's any pedestrians waiting to cross. Then the vehicle, in this case, I don't know if you can see it, there's a pedestrian in the center there, so the vehicle slows down, allows the pedestrian to cross the street. Then they continue through to the yield line, and at this point they have enough room to stop between the crosswalk and yield line, look to their left and see if there's approaching vehicles. Once again, they can continue through. And on the opposite side, there's room for them to stop if there are pedestrians crossing the crosswalk, and then can continue through once the pedestrian has crossed. When we look at stop controls, like the existing intersection, the vehicle comes to the intersection, stops, has to look across the street to see if there's approaching vehicles, see if there's vehicles approaching from the other leg. They also need to look at the crosswalks to see if there's pedestrians crossing, and this is all happening at one location, one moment in time, making all of these decisions. One of the most dangerous movements that we see is actually when people are making right turns. You're looking left, but there may be pedestrians crossing to your right, and so that can be a very, very dangerous movement. Very similar with a traffic signal. Again, you're looking at the lights, you're still looking if there's approaching vehicles, and you have to look at all the crosswalks. So now, this is a rendering that we completed of the concept for this corridor. So on the right side, you'll see we've got landscape and stormwater treatment areas. We've got drivable grass, which is going to be an area that you can pull over in case of emergency vehicles. Then we've got our travel lane, the center median where we're preserving as many of those existing trees as we can. And then we have a class 1 and class 4, so multi-use or bike dedicated paths. Where we could, we separated the pedestrians out so that it was just bikes and then just peds. Then we get to the roundabout at Harden McKinnon. And as we continue on, the cross-section remains the same. And we can go over these in more detail. What we did here is 2 of the approaches act like a roundabout, and then we were able to preserve the left turn pockets, and that's what gave us the ability to get rid of those left turns across traffic. So some of the things that we wanted to include as part of this project, some of them were grant requirements, some of them were based on community input, and then some of them were based on stakeholder input. So this first one here is providing that shoulder for emergency access. That is based on our initial feedback working with the fire department. Then we have our separated multi-use path, that's from the grant. Protecting the existing trees, that's something we heard from the community. Stormwater treatment is also tied to our grant funding. And then addressing the safety issues through lane reductions, also part of the grant to create that complete street. So at this point, we can break out into the different stations. We will have a roll plot up here, which shows the full length of the corridor, so we can talk that through. We have Post-its and everything too, so we can put everyone's comments down. We'll also have the computer simulation of the traffic on that monitor there. Yes, and that's it. So we can break out, or did we want to do questions? Okay. If anyone has questions, sure.
When is construction plan to start?
So we'll be doing design, final design this.
We didn't hear his question.
Oh, sorry. When is construction expected to start? We will be doing the final design this year, and then our construction wouldn't be until 2027 or 2028.
How many total roundabouts are built in this plan?
Sure. How many total roundabouts are built in this plan? It will be 3.
Can you say, where are they located? I know we know there's 2 of them that I know about. The third one, where's that at?
Yeah, so where are the roundabouts located out at? It's going to be Harden McKinnon, then it's going to be at Ercia, and the last one is at Broadway and Regency. Everywhere there's side streets.
Yeah.
So, I know that, the design, it looks all nice and everything on your computer design and everything, but in actuality, you know that the numbers are not there, because if you look at the space that is in between those streets, for the roundabout that you guys want to do, without tearing down the whole corner, and you're also talking about conserving the trees, and the city spent a lot of money on those palm trees. Some of those palm trees are like $20,000 palm trees. Now, all that's going to go to waste. So to me, that's all I see is just a waste, because the roundabout, if you look at the inside diameter, it's going to be what, about 15 feet in diameter?
For the one at Harden McKinnon?
Yes.
The diameter of that roundabout is 115. Yeah, it's pretty, the ICD is, the inner radius, yeah, would be.
So I'm not talking about it, I'm talking from one side to the other. What do you got, like 15
Yeah, so
feet?
that'll be about 108 feet.
Complete.
Yeah.
Okay. So On the picture, I mean, you show that the cars going around and everything, you know, you got like 2, 3 cars going out around that roundabout at the same time. But in reality, if you go and look at the one on Irish Drive, which is gonna be about the same size as that, okay? There's really no way to go around it. If you try to put a bus around that thing, it's not gonna clear it. It's gonna go over the middle of it. So, you know, to me, I mean, it slows down the traffic. Yeah, it does, but it's not gonna solve the problem. Because the kids are gonna try, if you do your survey when the kids are running out of here at school, they're trying to get home or they're trying to get to school. So you got hundreds of kids going through that section. And you got all these people trying to get somewhere, okay? They're not gonna stop for those kids. And I guarantee you that without a stop sign, they're not gonna stop. And so we're gonna try to teach Salinas drivers how to, you know, navigate all this. It's kind of a, to me, it's kind of a wasteful thing to think about roundabouts. I mean, we got to come up with a better solution.
Yeah, we heard a lot of those similar concerns a few years ago when we sat in the Harden Elementary School, worked with the teachers and the principal and the parents and everybody in that community there. Similar concerns. And we illustrated how to drive, what needs to take place. We're able to find extra space for people. We're able to simplify decisions. We're able to create safer walking environments and actually bring in order to some chaos that was out there in that area. I don't know if folks remember that area before those two roundabouts went in. And I think it's important to see this is similar size, similar roundabouts, similar community. Well, it's still your community. It's just in the south part of Salinas. So we have before videos of what we like to call highlight reels of parents behaving badly because they were going out there, stopping erratically, making U-turns, unsafe U-turns, stopping in unsafe places, sending their kids out, parking in the middle of the street. Some of the residents to the left, just off the screen that are over there on Rubber Street, they had cars in their front yards that would, because this excessive speeds in the northbound direction. Talk to folks now. Talk to the school. They love this. The residents out there love this. It's brought a lot of order out of the chaos. And so I suggest this is a great example of going out and driving and experience what's going to happen, what we're proposing at Harden and McKinnon intersection. It's really the same thing. Similar size. It's out of school. You can argue that there's a lot more parents, a lot more traffic, a lot more kids walking in this area. So I suggest to experience that.
So, you know, I mean, we're not the first ones to come up with the roundabouts. Other cities has them, you know, and I've been through some of those cities that have them. But if you look at their roundabouts, I mean, it's nice. I'm not going to argue with that. It does work. But you know what? They're twice the size of what you guys are building here in Salinas. Twice the size of that. So it makes a difference because I drive around town all the time. And you know, this is my route to Target, a mall, Safeway, or whatever. And I go through a stop sign. I get what you're saying, but, you know, I mean, to put a small little, I guess you could say, intersection in there, it's not going to solve the problem. So all you're going to do is push people away so that they don't go through that place anymore. So we're not solving the problem. We're shifting it somewhere else.
So these aren't minis. I do want to say that. So this is an average single lane roundabout. So it's not the really compact. It's not the really compact ones that you may see in other locations. I'm trying to think of where the ones are.
Riker, Irish Drive.
MJ Parkway.
So Imgen, totally, absolutely different animal. Multi-lane roundabout. Baranda, totally different animal. Multi-lane roundabouts.
The signs are so small.
Yeah, that's like driver version of
They
that.
have to slow to 15 miles an hour to navigate.
It's way too fast.
Sure, yeah. So this one, 100-foot diameter, or ICD, These ones are easy for the buses, I think, a lot more than the mini roundabouts that we've had to do or that we've done in other locations. So that, I don't think the size is restricting any of the movements.
What I'm looking at, thinking in my mind, is right now, okay, this here is going to be able to handle how many vehicles? You know, keep the flow going, okay? I don't know how many you have in your mind it's going to handle.
This simulation is with the existing traffic that's there. There's no.
Remember, we got some more homes coming, 500-600 homes more coming in the future. And, it's going to be more impact and get more vehicles.
Sure.
Is that going to handle the board? That's why I'm asking, how many vehicles do you think it's going to?
Yeah, so with the existing intersection, we're seeing level of service D and C. With the single lane roundabout, we're seeing level of service A. So even with the addition of the growth and additional houses, it would still have a better level of service than the always stop control.
That'll be fine enough.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you get some queues that are piling up here. The average delay that you're experiencing at the intersection is 10 seconds. So even when we get those queues that start piling up, they dissipate really quickly. With the stop control, we were seeing average 40 seconds, maximum over a minute waiting at the stop sign, and the queues were 700 feet.
And then the other thing is, safety-wise, I mean, in order for that to work the way it's planned, we need to have officers really patrolling the area, making sure that everybody's following the rules. And if we're short of officers, it's going to be a mess. That's what I.
Sure. Yeah. Concerns about safety and needing officers near the intersection. The beauty of the roundabouts, like I said, with that forcing that physical deflection, it forces the car to slow down. Like I said, with the stop control, we saw over a third of people not stopping. It's just the sign, it's just the light. There's nothing physically encouraging drivers to slow down. So even with lack of officers, you're gonna have that necessary reduction. I heard a comment that people aren't gonna stop for the kids. I mean, if they're stopping at this stop section now, the other nice thing about the roundabouts is you really, as you're approaching that the crosswalk, you're right there with the kids. You're able to make eye contact. So people can blow through, but you've got that pedestrian refuge area for the kids to stop. We've also seen the big hordes of kids coming through, and we've done those evaluations, and we have examples of schools afterwards where that is happening, and we're seeing the drivers stop, or the hordes of kids just going across, and nobody's going to drive through that. I don't know if you want to add.
No, I think what's important to understand is that this type of traffic control device is what we're calling it, whether it's a roundabout or a signal or the always stop, is that this is designed purposefully to maximize safety both for cars and pedestrians. The primary reason is we're simplifying the decision points that need to be made. There's fewer decision points that have to be made, and every decision point is being made at one time. You only have one decision to make. Unlike at a signal or an always stop, you can have 6 decisions you have to process at the same time in opposite directions to make a decision whether you're going to move forward or not. The next thing is when it comes to safety, Molly showed the slide of, it's unfortunate, but in terms of safety, when there's a crash, there's 2 factors involved with the crash. It's speed, the amount of energy that's happening behind the 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 pound vehicle, whatever that may be, and the angle in which that vehicle collides with something else, whether it's a pedestrian or another car. At a signal and an always stop, those are 90-degree angles at high rates of speed. With the roundabout, it's an angle type of collision, and it's always at a lower rate of speed. So when you think about what those factors are for severity of crashes, whether it's with another vehicle or a pedestrian, this is why roundabouts are used to improve safety, and then also not just for cars, but also for pedestrians and bicyclists. I mean, those are facts. That's just basic physics when we do this. There is going to be just like with any form of traffic control device or change in striping or whatever, there's going to be an adjustment period. But I think it's going back to that root mean, and what it will be for the future and the future benefit. And then you're going to be able to get through the corridor it's going to take you the same amount of time, if not a little bit quicker, to get through the corridor. But everybody's going to be going at a slower, consistent speed, and it's going to be safer for everybody versus going fast, hitting the brakes at a stop, and then accelerating and then going out again. It's the same rate of speed. Which is safer, which provides a better benefit for the community for multiple types of users. I think that's what needs to be balanced through this, and we're more than happy to show different things and talk through different things in more detail. But I think, is there a question back? Okay, right there.
Briefly, my name is Ramon Gomez. I sit on the Orange County Fire Board. Briefly, I wanted to ask, how long is typically the learning period, the transition period? And do you have additional signage out there? How do you deal with that transition period?
The transition period once it's installed.
Right.
Yeah. How we deal with it, I think it's usually within a couple months. We've seen there's a couple cities that have basically roundabouts as their only control type, and they've seen that generally people get comfortable with it. I think it was within 3 months.
Yeah. And we would think it would be quicker here. I mean, roundabouts aren't new to Salinas. I mean, there's two at Barden and Alisal and Skyway. They're all similar. Those three right there, just those three examples, those are similar sizes to what is being proposed here. Alisal Skyway is a little more complex because of the added left turn lane there. But otherwise, in terms of size and things, the ones at Barden Elementary School, those are really similar to what we're proposing here. And I think maybe somebody at the city could help, but I'm not sure if there was a long adjustment period or anything else with Barden Road. I didn't hear about anything, but I think it went pretty smooth.
Yeah, so, hi everybody, Adriana Robles, I'm the city engineer. Yeah, when we completed Barton, there was really a minimal, it really was a matter of weeks. When traffic got used to it, people got used to it. That is my preferred route to go home because it is so efficient. It is very efficient. And you're basically limiting. I don't know how many of you used to go through that intersection before, but it was extremely chaotic, especially during the school hours. And now you see that it is very, if you have a place to go and it's the school and you're coming from Alisal, it guides you there. There's no like, okay, I'm gonna do an illegal turn, which before it was very open and people were moving in various directions. But as far as the transition, which was your question, people adapt very quickly.
Hi. Comment and question. Comment is, thank you for what you're doing to make our community more safe. Thank you. First question. What will be the flow for a bicycle moving through the roundabout at McKinnon and Harden Parkway? Can you walk through that flow for me? For a bicycle in the center?
Yes.
They'll cross 4 crosswalks, I guess, to get back to the center?
So we actually made that, so the question was how will cyclists navigate at the Harden McKinnon roundabout. So let me get to this guy. So we actually made each each of the crossings two-way for cyclists so that you didn't have to go around the entire roundabout to get to whichever side. So yeah, you'd have to do a two-stage crossing if you're trying to go across.
So you would then take 4 crosswalks to get back to the center?
Correct,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
For the other ones, we were able to do a unique design, and so we were to keep the cyclists in the center, and then we were able to slow cars down as they were making the left. With this one, it's more of a traditional roundabout, so the bikes would go on the outside. Oh, I did.
There we go.
I have a question. So, you know, with the roundabout that's happening over on Dorado and McKinnon, there was a lot of delays. And a lot of people, you know, a little frustrated, a lot of questions, stuff like that. I guess the question I have is, what should we understand about delays that happen there at McKinnon and Broadway when we don't see nobody working for weeks? What should we understand about that?
So that's outside the scope of this project. I think maybe follow up with the city afterwards for anything Veranda. I am not working on that one.
Since there's going to be 3 roundabouts, what's the number of years to get through all of these and finish?
As I mentioned, it would be a net reduction in travel time to get through.
No, I mean, how many years to construct that?
Oh.
I live like 3 blocks from here.
Sure.
So I don't know how I'm getting it down.
I think our construction timeline was 12 months.
To construct all 3 of them?
Correct, yeah.
Interesting, because Veranda's going to take at least 3 years.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll have more updates closer to construction, but I think the max we had in the grant was 18 months.
My concern on the roundabouts, they're good for the flow of traffic, right? But by a school, it's bad. Because, you know, people, drivers now, they're impatient, you got road rage, there ain't no stop. And there's blind spots in that area. And you know what? I think it would have been cheaper, you guys would put like a walkway bridge. You know, cheaper than a life. But also, if you guys, you can also put flashing lights by those walkways. That way drivers know if there's somebody will be walking across. Safety lights on both sides.
Yeah, I will reiterate there's been a ton of research on this with the safety benefits of roundabouts, specifically for pedestrians. 90% reduction in fatal collisions, 74% reduction in injury collisions, 34% overall reduction in collisions. So everybody gets frustrated at the intersection going through. That's why we're seeing people speeding up to 60 miles an hour at that stop sign when they're waiting and then they finally get to go through. With the roundabout, you are moving more efficiently through it. I don't think we can solve people's road rage necessarily, but we do have the data to show that it does improve safety.
Yeah, thank you. Jared Augusta, Monterey Salinas Transit, Risk Manager. Just a comment and a question for you folks, and I'll start by saying thanks for all your hard work. I know how hard it is to kind of coordinate with all the different jurisdictions, fire, transit, city, community, and try to facilitate a project of this size. So kudos. So first question is just based on the cost analysis. I heard you talking about costs for safety analysis, but did you guys do a cost analysis of the difference of just putting signal lighting in versus the infrastructure? And I'm specifically speaking to the main roundabout here. Just curious about cost analysis there. And then another question, obviously you guys have to go to the 11-foot road diet lane because that's part of the grant process. But has there been consideration for emergency and contingency movement inside and around the roundabout, specifically if collisions do occur? Obviously, based on the data, it shows that there's a significant lowering of exposure or likelihood and severity, so that's really great, right? But what happens when roundabout gets impacted and shut down. And so if you could speak to that, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, so the first question was there a cost comparison analysis done looking at a signal at the Harden McKinnon intersection? Yes, so that was, we looked at basically 5 scenarios overall. One was existing, so you have the 4 lanes. We looked at always stop, control, and signal. Right. Then we said, okay, great. If we're gonna take away some lanes, let's also look at always stop, control, and signal. And then we said, great, let's look at the single lane roundabout. With that benefit cost analysis, what we do is we monetize safety and delay, and that's all based on Caltrans standards. They monetize the cost of collisions and then the person time costs associated with delay. And so we did compare, yes, the signal to the roundabouts, or roundabout, and across the board, the roundabout came out as the preferred. If it's straight cost, even with the signal, because of the curb extensions, you end up with more pavement and the signal ends up being very comparable to the roundabout.
Interesting. Even with the 4-way or 4 lane?
With the 4 lane.
The existing conditions?
With the existing condition, the signal I think would have been cheaper, yeah. I don't have that one off the top of my head. And then your second question was about emergency response should there be an accident in the roundabout. Yes, so this is where it is actually narrowed down to 11 feet. So this is where we have our shoulder, which is to allow for emergency access. It does get narrow to 11 feet here, but this, this truck apron is minimally at least 12 feet. And that's really easy for fire trucks to go in and mount. We only have a 1 to 2 inch face on that curb with their giant tires. It's nothing to overtrack. So that would be how they could get through there.
Yeah, I'll add to that, and we have some graphics that we can provide to the city to be used in the future on how to drive. You have it? Okay.
Yeah, I have it.
We have it. So what to do when at a single lane roundabout when there is an emergency vehicle. And so what are those rules of the road? That's an older one. But so, you know, it's common sense. The vehicle's behind, if you're in there and there's no place to pull over, you go through the roundabout and you pull over. It's just like if you're in a signalized intersection or something else, you're not going to stop in the middle of the intersection. You got to go through the intersection, get to a safe place, pull over, let the emergency vehicles stop. If you're on the cross street and an emergency vehicle is coming, don't enter the roundabout. Or if you're in the circulating road, you're in the circulating lane here, and an emergency vehicle is coming through, stop and let the emergency vehicle go. It's the same rules of the road as a normal intersection. One of the key benefits of this too, on the safety and the feedback that we get from first responders for roundabouts, is during the response time, one of the most, especially for fire, one of the most dangerous times in responding to an emergency is navigating an intersection, a signalized intersection, with lights. Making sure that you watch, a lot of times they'll have to stop, make sure the intersection's clear, and then move forward. So with this, it's just, again, it just simplifies those movements. It's very easy. You only need to worry about if somebody's coming from the left here. Or cars getting out of the way, there's somebody coming from the left here. That's all that's needed. So you don't have to come to a complete stop to enter the intersection, make sure all the cross traffic isn't coming through that they see, and all those types of things. They're also spending less time responding to severe collisions at these types of normal intersections as well. So just something to think about. I'm not sure who this is.
I'm just gonna start working over from the left.
Yes, so you didn't really consider the same 4 lanes with a signalized intersection here and do computer simulation to see what that does as far as controlling it better than the stop signs? And then also, I wasn't clear on the bicyclists do not go into the roundabout then, that they have to go from the bike lane, I guess it's in the center now, rather than on the side, and then go across, get off their bike, go across the crosswalks, do a couple of crosswalks, and then back in the center and go on. Is that true? And then the last thing on safety, I know these are in a more residential area, but they're not always as safe as what you are portraying with the 3 fatalities that just occurred in January in the same roundabout within 3 weeks on 156 in near Hollister. So it does happen. I know you're saying all these angles and conflict points and all of that, but there are fatalities, and these were vehicular fatalities, not just pedestrians or bicyclists. So that were the 3 questions.
Sure, yeah, so really unfortunate, the multi-lane roundabout on Highway 156 has had a couple of fatalities, or more than a couple. It's high speed, it is multi-lane. Certainly, yeah, we're not saying roundabouts cure everything, but that is one of the major differences between this location and that one. So it is residential, and it's not multi-lane. I think we could talk about the design deficiencies of that particular location in another time. So as far as the signal, so yes, we did do the intersection control evaluation for the signal with both the 4-lane approach and the 2-lane approach. We did not do the full computer simulation for that alternative because the intersection control evaluation yielded the roundabouts as the preferred. But we did want to have a comparison of the roundabout corridor to the existing so that we had that travel time analysis. And then for the cyclists, yeah, they can either take the lane and go through the roundabout, it's a single lane, or if they prefer, if you're a less confident rider, utilize the crosswalks to get around.
But if they're going into the roundabout, they have to get up to traffic speeds and merge in with the vehicles to go through that, correct?
So we're still looking at that. I think the approach is going to be similar what we normally do, which is where you have that 50-foot offset and then have the bike ramp so that they can get ahead of the vehicles. That's still something that we're figuring out because we have heard a few responses about not wanting to go all the way around the roundabout.
And that would be my safety concern. The bicyclists are going to take that long way around. They're going to cut through the intersection.
Sure, yeah, concern about cyclists just going straight through.
Well, good evening. Lots of great questions. My name is Tony Barrera. I'm council member of District 2, which we have 3 roundabouts in District 2. And I've been on 156 several times. It's difficult. That one takes some practice. I think every roundabout is kind of unique. You know, the interesting thing about this one, we spend several community meetings with faculty and teachers and parents at the school. A lot of the majority of them really like the idea once a lot of conversations started happening. Interesting thing, I would encourage you to go to District 2 and go through the roundabouts because all 3 of them are different. You'll find out they have their own character. On Barton Elementary, remember we have 18-wheelers that are coming from Chular area. I mean, remember they're coming at a fast pace. First big building you're going to see is an elementary school. It is amazing how it starts slowing down. In practice, it's practice. Faculty, children, parents, they love it at Barton School. I've been there several times just to check it out, to see it. And it takes practice. I've been through several times there. The other interesting one is the one that's by the golf course, going out to the airport. You got these big trucks, semi-trucks. Imagine they're passing by an elementary school, one roundabout, then they're going out to the other one, they're going on to 101. It works great. I parked there for several minutes on each one of them just because I was worried at the beginning. I really was. Because ultimately we're responsible because we're accepting these projects. But I want to thank Kimberly Horn. This one, I'm feeling great about. At the beginning, I was very concerned. I wanted to hear from the teachers. I wanted to hear from the parents, from the children. And we heard, I think I must have gone, me individually, went to about 6 meetings. We've been at this for, what, 2 or 3 years now, with community meetings. So, but you have, this, I just encourage you, go take a little baby cruise down District 2. That way you'll see how they work. All three of them, and they're close to each other, but all three of them are different. Different characters. Thank you.
So, I understand, and, like Tony says, it might work for him and all that, but here's a whole different animal. Now, my biggest concern is that we're always talking about City of Salinas doesn't have the funds for this, City of Salinas doesn't have the funds for that. And we go and we pick the most expensive project that we can get out of it, and we put our money into it. And I know that one of the answers is, and I asked this question before, and one of the answers is, well, it's a grant that was given to us. If we don't use it, we lose it. Well, at the end of the day, it's a state, funded. So if you pay into the state tax, you're paying into that money. So why are we dumping all this money and throwing half of it away and redoing stuff? When simple solution is put the lights on the stop signs and leave it as it is. Do something minimal so that we don't have to tear the whole street that we spend so much money onto building, and now we're going to tear it up. The other thing is you're talking about building all these bicycle lanes, and when you build a bicycle lane, and you can go by Algavon Elementary School, okay, that bicycle lane is used for parents to wait for their kids to get out of school every day. So who uses the bicycle lanes? Not bicyclists, I guarantee you that. But my biggest concern is we are dumping all this money into something that is not necessary, in my opinion. But let's find a smaller solution that we can work with, everybody can live with. I mean, I don't think we have to pick the most expensive project to be able to deal with it, but that's just my opinion.
That's a good opinion.
I had a question. I'm just curious, in all the research going into this project, what have you uncovered in the city's data about in the intersection of McKinnon and Harden? In the history of that intersection, how many deaths have we had and how many injuries have we had? I'm curious.
That's an excellent question that I don't recall off the top of my head. So the question was, what is the history of collisions at Harden and McKinnon? I can pull that up for you, but I don't.
But it was injuries and deaths.
Correct. Yeah, we have that. That's what was used as part of the evaluation for the grant. I just don't have it off the top of my head.
Thank you.
Going on the cost, good point on, the grant was around 8 million, I believe, and that's what I understand from your presentation is dictating the diet of reducing from 4 to 2, and then also the middle bike lane. There's certain parameters on that grant that seem like it's driving the focus on what you're doing in a major way. Does that 8 million pay for all of the construction and all 3 roundabouts and all of this road diet and everything, or is there going to be more money needed for the completion of that?
So that was slightly outdated. 8 million was what was initially awarded for the project for design and construction, contingent on additional state funds, which we were able to secure. And so now it's 16 million, which would cover the cost of the project, design and construction.
But the 8 million is what's dictating a lot of the parameters
What's
that are
dictating.
being...
So the city had interest in improvements along Harden Parkway, really driven by the development of the city Safe Routes to School plan and then the county active transportation plan. When TAMC did the installations by the school, there was a need or a want to do all these improvements, and then at the same time the city was interested in improvements along Harden. When we did the initial intersection control evaluation, that's what led us to seeing that we could reduce the number of lanes through the use of the roundabout, and then that way incorporate these complete street elements that make it competitive for the grant. So they kind of go hand in hand. The way to get that funding from the state is to provide those improvements that are complete street, have pedestrian benefits, have cyclist benefits, and that's how you get those funds.
Exactly.
Last time we had this meeting, there were bus stops who were nearby. I'm just curious,
Yeah,
have Do you guys have anything to show where the bus stops are now?
We can show it on the roll plot, yeah.
Thank you.
I saw, yes.
Hey, do you have an idea of what the impact would be for Montclair residents on the incoming and outgoing gates on McKinnon and on Broadway?
We can take a look on that screen when we're done with the questions and look at that directly. We can also follow up with that, those specific delay values. We can pull that from our model.
Yeah, the reason I was asking was because the main entrance to Montclair is a very short distance from McKinnon and Harden. And a lot of questions were asked about that.
Yeah, I would say overall with the roundabout, we were seeing a fairly significant reduction in the queues. And so it should be easier to access from Montclair.
During the construction period?
During the construction period, I'm not sure. We don't know what it's going to look like building it out. Yeah, but there will definitely be more outreach too towards the construction. We want to make sure to maintain access as much as we can.
How long will the construction period last?
Right now we're thinking 12 to 18 months.
12 to 18 months. And you want to go and you want to get into your house.
I think that's, you also have to realize, that's for the entire length of the corridor. That doesn't mean construction in that one spot for 12 to 18 months.
We try to space it out so that it's not the whole thing at once.
Did you do a study on bicycle use on Harden and going from the typical on the side, by the sidewalk where the lanes are already there, going to the center one, and how that's going to impact the increased use? I guess you're thinking that it's going to increase the use as opposed to just keeping it the way it is now and just trying to encourage more bicyclists. And then, of course, people in Seaside know the famous bike lane in the center of the median on Fremont that was there, and I think through the same kind of grant situation, and it's never used. I haven't seen a bicycle up there for years. So going to the center and then going to an intersection, have to get out of the center, go to the outside, cross a crosswalk to get back into a regular bike lane, doesn't seem to be a bicycle-friendly thing.
Sure. Yeah, so a couple things there. The famous Monterey Fremont center running bike lane. We did actually specifically meet with City of Monterey to discuss their trials and tribulations with that. And they've said that they actually do see quite a bit of usage there. In terms of predicting the mode shift, we have percentages that we can apply to the existing cyclists on the corridor. Of course, we're hoping that we're converting more people to actually using the whole thing. But we designed the center running. It really came down to a lot of factors. We had to balance the need for stormwater treatment, the need for emergency access, and then having the lane reductions, and the preservation of the trees in the middle. And so when we looked at options where the bikes were on the outside, we ended up either not being able to fit stormwater treatment where it would actually treat water coming from where vehicles drive, or we ended up with a greater loss of the trees in the center. And then when we shifted the center running path, we actually were able to, split up the multi-use trail to go around the trees and have all these different options. And so we were able to preserve more of the existing median and more of the trees. Yeah, it's the way we're laying it out, and we have the whole rendering we can go through. We're trying to give it a better feel so it's more comfortable and more spacious for bikes and pedestrians to go there. We're also increasing the access north and south along Harden. Right now, the only way to cross the street is at Harden and McKinnon. With the center running trail, we're now providing 4 additional north-south crossings. So it's easier to get to that center running path as well. So I don't have exact numbers for how much we think cyclists will use it, but we're trying to use local knowledge and talking to other cities and talking to residents to see how best can we support usage.
I just want to make sure I heard and understood correctly. So in terms of the original grant proposal that went in order to make it a little bit more competitive, did I hear you correctly when you said you had to demonstrate that there was going to be like this bicycling element, you would be adding bicycle? So what I'm understanding then is that for the sake of getting the grant, and I know that these are typically on a point system, in order to get more points to get awarded the grant, you made a statement that may not be necessarily the case. Because I heard a gentleman say, you know, and I've seen them too, we have some bicycle lanes that aren't utilized, right? So are we going to create bicycle lanes that are not going to get utilized? I know that El Dorado Park, we have a lot of people that walk. And having lived just off of Buckingham, or living on Buckingham, you know, I see people that walk and jog and not bicycle. So am I understand that correctly? We're creating something that's not actually going to be used. It was done for the sake of submitting a competitive grant proposal.
No, I wouldn't, I mean.
That's
the bottom line.
This particular grant program is the active transportation program. So there are a lot of points associated with active modes. So walking, cycling. We did want to incorporate, because the existing cross-section is so wide, we wanted to be able to reallocate some of that space to active modes. I do have counts on the existing pedestrian and cyclist activity. I don't know it off the top of my head, but the goal of the project and also of the grant program is to get more people to walk and cycle.
I think the big thing to keep in mind on this is that we're improving access. That's both north-south access. Right now, Harden it's a divide between the communities that are on the south and the north because there's only the one crossing in the middle at McKinnon. So there's providing more access points, providing safer crossings. So again, the crossing distances are significantly reduced. And you know, there's nothing that says that you know, the point of the project is to provide that opportunity for access that's safe and efficient. Again, this is part of a Safe Routes to School project. It's improving safety for pedestrians, for all modes. It's to encourage more bicycles. You know, maybe if there's a safer facility and students feel safer, parents feel safer that their kids are going to be safe, more confident. Maybe it'll reduce some of the congestion in terms of parents dropping their kids off. Maybe they'll be more comfortable walking or riding their bikes to school. So I think what's important is that we're fortunate to be able to pursue grants such as this to improve the community and provide that opportunity for safe access for everybody. Now, it's you know, it's a tremendous amount of money that is given in terms of grant. And I think to the question is, well, you know, yeah, we're all taxpayers, yeah, we all pay it. Yeah, it isn't free, somebody has to pay for it, that's true. But this is something that's going to your community, for your community to have an improvement and an enhancement in it, versus going to some other community. It's the same pot of money, it's the same amount of money, it's going to be the same amount of your taxes are going to go someplace. This is a great opportunity to get it in your neighborhood so that you can access it, so that your neighbors can access it, and you get those enhancements.
So,
That's,
to that, I mean, I understand your point, and you're 100% right, it's something, but we have to also look at, yeah, we want stuff in our community, but there's other stuff that we could do so that we don't use the most expensive stuff that it is available. So now, if you look at Natividad, there's a crosswalk right there. If you're talking about safe crossing spaces, you push the button, the lights light up on the ground, people cross. Natividad, that's a 45 mile per hour street. Okay, they respect those lights. People stop. When those lights light up, people stop because they know somebody's going to cross. I mean, that's an efficient way of building a sidewalk. Now, we don't have to go spend $15 million to go build, you know, a couple of crossing paths and a bicycle lane that In reality, nobody's gonna use, the kids that are on bicycles, they're not using the bicycle lane. They're using the road. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's an improvement for the community and you're trying to get your community, but, I mean, why fix what's not broken is what I'm saying. You know, you wanna add to it, then yeah, you can add to it, but don't tear everything up just because you're getting a grant.
When we started, we thought that speed was a concern on the corridor. I mean, people refer to it as a drag.
all over this town.
Well, this is one way to address that. I mean, I think when we showed the data of just a 20-minute slice out of that life of that intersection, and you know, there are near misses, there are confusion, there's people speeding. That's in 20 minutes. You saw that, just a random 20-minute period. It's happening for hours every day. So it's not, this isn't what we think. I mean, we showed you what is actually happening. And you all, before we went into this and we showed that data, you all agreed that, yeah, this is a problem. So this is a solution. And then it's a great opportunity to be competitive for these funds and being able to apply them locally instead of somewhere else at some other community in the state.
Is there any AI options like the one that's being offered on 68?
So AI is, so I'm going to turn this around. So we used AI to help us come to this conclusion.
I think they're using
So-
a light.
Yeah, so AI,
instead of a roundabout.
really what it is it's a technology that's been around for quite a while. Somebody's monitoring, there's a server system that's monitoring the signals and the traffic out in Australia at a server farm or somewhere else, and then it provides feedback to make it more efficient based on the cross traffic and everything else. You can call it AI, it's just an automated system. It isn't an AI solution, it's something, AI is popular right now, so it's being applied like that.
So
It's
none
being
of them are
branded.
like the one in 68 that's being offered
It's-
there.
So that's something that happens, so for a very long corridor that can be complex, that can't be timed, and there's other complex movements, to get a small incremental improvement in operations through there to adapt. It's called adaptive signal timing. That's a terminology that's been around for a long time. Folks have branded it as AI. But it's just adaptive signal timing, so it isn't pre-programmed, it isn't determined just simply by a car driving over a loop that triggers the red light for the conflicting traffic. It's just a little more sophisticated algorithm, so you don't immediately get that trip from a conflicting vehicle. I'm sure everybody's been out to a signal, you're going through, there's hardly any traffic, and then there's one car that comes on the side street. And boom, all of a sudden there's a yellow light. All it's doing is it's trying to balance that out to make it a little more efficient for the mainline traffic to go. I think we have a lot of other stuff to do. We have some more detailed VISM, traffic simulations through the entire corridor, including the bus stop application for what's going on. And then we also have a simulation for the corridor, kind of like we don't have it. Sorry, we apologize. We're a little behind. One of our team members got in a car crash on the way here, and she had all of this stuff and set up, and so we apologize. We had something. It'll be ready next time, where you're able to simulate walking through, kind of like in a video game, of what this corridor is. We'll have that definitely ready next time. It's basically this simulation, but it gives you control of where you can go. No, it was at a conventional intersection.
Yes, this is fine. It's just
Real quick,
If I may add, I know there's quite a few talking. If I can get your attention, we do have the road plot, which is a printed map of how the corridor will look. I know we have the rendering playing here, but we have the road plot, which is a hard copy. Please provide your feedback on the post-its of anything within the corridor, the design, the concept, the look. We have it here. There's post-its, there's pencils to leave your comments written on the map. And then we also have, we're here available also for additional questions.